Welcome along, everyone. I think we got there in the end. Sorry for the slight technical hitch. We tried to go live, and we couldn't. A little bit of jiggery pokery in the background, and we got there, boys.
Just about. I didn't realise we had the old intro video queued up and everything.
That's the only one in there. This is what happens when we move software. When I've got my stuff and my little pad, I know where everything is.
Well, I will also share with everyone. This is probably the first time we've been already like 15 minutes before the show for the first time in so long, and the one time we were already in all those beats on.
Everything looked fine. Everything was absolutely fine. We're like, yeah, this is how we touch on it. This is how we use these buttons. Blah blah blah. Simple. Go live. No.
Yeah, it was weird, but we got there in the end. Welcome along, chat room. Hope everyone is good. Welcome along. I say, I don't know. It's obviously a different chat room, so apologies to anyone that was in the old one and has come across. It's great. We don't often have cock-ups like this, but we did tonight, but we'll get there, boys.
Yeah, so we can still see the old chat room and the new one. So anything from Daniel saying first here is in the new chat room. Anything before that is in the old one. So we haven't got Shawnee Mac back or any of the other group like that yet.
Yeah. So come and say hi. It's been a busy weekend, boys, as per usual. Plenty to discuss.
Yeah, it's as I think we alluded to it last week. It's pretty much non-stop until now, and a little maybe weekend break sometime in January, in between like Q-Stall and the Masters, maybe, and that's about it. And even then, they're throwing a little dev or a challenge tour. So, yeah, all dull at the moment, but another very, very good weekend.
Yeah, look, it was. Peter Wright ended. I can't believe I'm saying this because until the weekend, this is something that hadn't been talked about. But how has he gone 5 years without not winning the Euro Tour? I get that there was only 2 of them because of COVID, and so, okay, we'll give him grace. But still, 3 years without a Euro Tour is absolutely ridiculous.
And I was quite taken aback by that because the man was world number 1 less than a couple of months ago. To have done that without the Euro Tour, look, we said how close Gary Anderson got to knocking Michael van Gerwen off his perch a couple of years ago, and we were fascinated that he'd done that without the use of the European Tour, especially when Michael was so dominant on it. But for Peter Wright to have actually ascended to world number 1 without a Euro Tour title on his record, all right, he might have had runners-up or semi-finals or whatever on that, but to not have picked up a title for a man that wins as often as he does when he plays darts is quite staggering.
Yeah, I suppose as well, the news was out and Dimitri was playing with new equipment, shirt and sponsor.
The worst kept secret in the world. Honestly, we've known for months. And even the teasers did not hide it. There was no oh, who on earth could this be? I was just like, why? Why are you teasing us for a deal that everybody knows it's already happening? The next big move's already being spoken about online.
I've known for so long this was happening, and when I mean so long, I am talking double-digit months.
Right.
And it's just ridiculous. Look, I'm just going to put it out there, though. His shirt is horrible.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Look, Target do some wonderful branding stuff with all of their stuff, and it looked great the way it was launched and everything like that. But I just don't like that grey on the shirt. It just doesn't sit good.
Yeah, there's normally with new shirts, you do normally have a bit of a mixed response on social media, or not just shirts. With even stuff like trainers, you can sometimes get a mixed response. But a couple of shirts this week, just a shirt and a trainer, just hasn't landed well on socials.
What trainers are you possibly referring to there, Lee? The same ones Shawnee Max just mentioned in the chat room.
I was going to say,
maybe, yeah.
I was going to say possibly the same ones that Shawnee Max on about.
Talking of shoes, though, Scott Williams is the best dressed man I've ever seen in my life.
No.
He just needs a couple of OD logos, and he's already walking, talking brand for us, isn't he? It's just black and yellow everywhere. The fact he doesn't walk out to that song as well is by Wiz Khalifa disappointing. Or Sam Sparrow and Gold. You've got to walk out to one of them, surely.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Dimmy's darts either. They look like the old Simon Whitlock ones where they've just merged two into one.
The front grip looks really, really weird, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what it looks like? It looks like a conversion point.
Yeah.
It looks like they were originally soft tip barrels, so they've chopped the front off and then they've screwed a point into the front of it, which is where that little the prickly bits stick out from. Obviously, they're clearly not. But yeah, they look like they just whacked a conversion point on a set of normal barrels.
Yeah, it was yeah.
And don't get me started on collector's items launch things.
Right, before we go into the Euro Tour, as it's been brought up, Devon's shoes, what are we saying? Because I'm saying no.
How much? Is that number accurate?
Is that paying people to wear them, or?
Wow.
I'd chuck the old "what are those" gif at him on Twitter earlier, but
Yeah, that landed well. To dial back to your question, Phil, I'm out, as they say on one TV show. I'm 100% out. Not for me.
No. I'm not a fan, and I don't see them catching on either, to be fair.
Yeah, you know how we talked about a lot of people though to Simon Whitlock about the darts, and we're mending them slightly. Do you think many people think know to Devon Peterson about the trainers?
No, absolutely not.
133 euros for the cheapest pair.
Are the cheapest pair design your own?
They're not catching on. Just throwing that one out there already.
I was confused by the fact that the pair that Devon shared are obviously the black and red ones, which also match his branding, which fair enough. But when he get fined for wearing them, doesn't he have to wear the plain black pair?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I suppose Scott Williams wears yellow and Peter Wright wears what he wants. Although he was without snakeskin shoes this week. And he was without the paint as well. It was just Mohican.
Will is in from across the pond, mate. Hope you are good. Caught up with Will and the gang over in New York. Yeah, I don't get it. Hideous. Absolutely hideous. No further questions, Your Honour. But we'll do the elephant in the room as well before we look at the results on the Euro Tour. Friday was horrific. the session's too small because of people pulling out. Look, I'm hopefully. I've spoke to Matt. I'm going to do a sit down with him, either in Amsterdam or Leicester. But surely, for 2023, they have to put something in place so this doesn't keep happening.
Yes. Definitely. And look, the solution that the European Tour home nation qualifiers came up with earlier in the year seemed like it was brilliant. It was the two runners up, if there's two spots qualify, then have a third place playoff, and then they go next in order of priority for a call up, and that would certainly solve some of it. I think the issue with that was they'd already played one Euro Tour event before they decided to do that, so it was too late to bring it in as a rule for the year. And it was a PDC Europe idea, not a PDC idea, so it didn't get signed off properly. So hopefully that is something that goes into the conversation next year. And I'm a little bit cautious about bashing people with withdrawals. Obviously, Roby John last week could not be avoided at all. He was touching guys if he was going to play anyway. His daughter had surgery and opted to stay with family for a little bit longer. So genuinely, can't knock Roby for that at all. But for 4 withdrawals, one that we knew about weeks ago ourselves, at least. There was a couple more that were rumoured about it anyway, and we think that maybe they had places to be Friday night that just made it make sense to be there Saturday anyway. But to have 4 withdrawals, the one that surprises me the most is AD Lewis.
I believe his wife wasn't well.
Okay, so again,
look, we're not knocking players. There are genuine reasons, but there also needs to be something put in place regardless of the reason for them pulling out. Because, take for instance, look, he won, but Ross Smith got a bye. And so if he had lost to Danny Noppert, that money wouldn't have gone on his rankings because he didn't win his first round game.
Yeah. It certainly needs to be looked at. If you look at, Pro Tour events, we can run 4 or 5 on the bench, and we have people drop out day 5, and we've still got call-ups ready, coming from wherever, some playing in the live league at times have sort of had a call to say, can you come? So it just finds it a bit strange. It's even more so when it's someone who has made it clear that he's not going to be playing. Yes, you have the exception, but if it's 1, then it can sort of be seen as an exception. When you got 4 dropping out in a week, it doesn't look right. For a session to be as short as what it was on the Friday, for it being a Euro Tour event, just doesn't seem right.
Adrian, MVG told the world in New Zealand, Australia or New Zealand, one or the other, that he wasn't playing in. He went on holiday with his family. Will be resolved next year. PDC Europe had that plan. But he's still gonna. I agree, it's a good plan. But the issue...
Again, the thing is, it wouldn't cover 4 withdrawals, would it? You'd have a 3rd and a 4th place ready to go. And again, it would be where the PDPA probably need to step in, or the PDC Europe, to fund those players to travel. We're already having a debate enough about funding first-round losers, and now we're trying to say, right, well, actually, we've got to send at least 1, if not 2 players to every event to not play.
Yeah, you just cover their cost and a monkey if they don't play.
Yeah. But we'll see how many times, if it's the same player constantly and then they're not getting called up, are they going to get fed up of it? For example, if Scott Williams was always the next cab off the rank for Pro Tours, or say they were constantly full, but he was being invited as the next reserve. The Pro Tours have been just as bad, by the way. This isn't just a dig at the Euro Tour.
Yeah.
The whole system has been ridiculous this year.
Jamie, yes, there is, players are fined for pulling out late of tournaments. I don't know what the exact cut-off is, but certainly we've seen DRA fines before for pulling out late. Look, I don't think for the top players it's not much of a deterrent. It's a couple of £100 slap on the wrist and be on your way type thing.
At this point, I'd rather Dan Dawson and Murph and Nico all have a chuck.
As well, that lineup this weekend was mint. Webby and Murph together genuinely had me in tears. Absolute tears. Classic Webster.
I sent you on the lines, didn't I? I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dan Dawson European Tour effect has rubbed off on the rest of the team by the looks of it.
Yeah. It was just, had me in fits of tears. But looking at the actual event, we're not going to go through the whole of the first round. Just the standouts. What caught your eye, boys, in round one?
For me, it's probably that'll be the Martin Luthman 6-1 demolition of Clemens, who averages 107 and only picks up one leg. I know he didn't have a huge amount of darts at doubles, and that sometimes can kind of make the average look a lot better. But even if he'd have had another 6 or 7 darts, he'd probably still be averaging in the ton. Martin Luthman was just very, very impressive, and was probably the standout for me to defeat someone who's averaging around that evening a short format. He's still very, very good. Probably the other one result that sort of stood out to me was just the Barney Ian White, and not the fact that Barney won 6-0, but more the fact of just where is Ian White's game right now, because it was a very, very poor performance.
Look, I'm not sure where Ian White's game is at the moment. We've seen him win Pro Tours, win Euro Tours, but right now he's a shadow of the diamond that we saw 2019. Big question marks around Ian White's form right now. For you, God, what else stood out in round one?
Perhaps not the level of performance, but the results. Big result for David Evans first up against Martijn Kleermaker.
Yeah.
A little bit fortunate to be ahead, but made the most of it, especially when Martijn come back at him. Probably the same the following game as well. Bradley Brooks against Scott Williams as well. Look, Bradley Brooks is the tour card holder in that situation, but Scott Williams would have been heavy favourite going into that one, given the form and the way that he's playing this year. Hard not to be impressed with Luke Woodhouse. I think when he gets it right, he is top 32 caliber at an absolute minimum. It's when he doesn't get it right that's the issue, and he definitely needs to up that B game. But I genuinely think he's got so much talent, and we're going to see more and more of Luke Woodhouse. And then I guess it's concern for me. John Henderson beaten pretty comfortably against Danny Van Tripp to go along with Ian White, struggling form as well. Not good signs.
No. I think you boys have covered it all rather well there. Round two got a little bit spicy, a little bit interesting. I can't help but think Dirk van Dijvenbode is a little bit undercooked right now. Maybe not enough time on the board recently with the break for the World Series. Didn't quite look at his sharpest.
Yeah, with you on that. We sort of said about a few, didn't we, last week? But Dirk doesn't look nowhere near the player we've seen of what we've seen in previous events. So something that he'll need to look at that next weekend. And it wasn't a great game between him and Durney, but it just shows that bit more of recent stage experience from Durney just got him through.
Yeah. Peter Wright as well, the world champion, came back last week, was unlucky to lose in the first round last week, but again, very, very good. All but a ton average to beat Barney. Again, fairly comfortably got, if I'm being honest. Never really looked any danger in that game.
Yeah, look, like you said, he played really, really well last week, and spoiler alert, he looked pretty good this week as well. I'm not the biggest fan of the barrels that he opted to use. Clearly likes the all-in-one solid flight and stem that a lot of players are using at the minute. Jose was the first to really bring it over. Devon did similar as well, but Chizzy's using it at the minute. And Peter Wright's another who seems to be using it a fair bit. The plastic, Kim Hybrex used it as well. And apart from the fact that he's lost a bit of weight and he certainly looks a little bit thinner in the face, Peter Wright looked like he'd never been away.
Yeah, no dancing this weekend. Yeah, look, I think he's just easing himself back to fitness. He's still got to be a little bit careful after his surgery and everything like that. Look, I'm sure the dancing will be back in time once he's fit well and able again. An interesting one here from Tommy. Is Barney a journeyman now?
How long have we got?
See,
How long have we got?
Go on, Dob.
Can we do a Barney conversation at the end of the show?
Yeah, of course we can.
Because World Series is Amsterdam, and obviously he wasn't invited, so I think he wasn't invited first time around, so I think that's a good time to bring it back.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm just concerned that it's past now. We're supposed to have 2 guests on. One might not be that ready, but we still got an awful lot of the Euro Tour to go through. So we'll park Barney for now. We'll have a conversation about him at the end.
We're going into Fergie time, I can tell. Also, there's a lot of ones about the refereeing. We will come on to that towards the end because he is going to get a shout. Don't worry. Johnny Clayton is very up and down right now. Even in that same game, he started well, went off the boil, and finished well. Is it a case of the ferret just needs some time off? Don't go to Belgium next week. Just go home, rest, and do absolutely nothing.
Yeah. He's looked knackered since the last time in Amsterdam, and even then he was about 3 or 4 weeks too late to take a break, and he hasn't really stopped since.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the same board as Dob there. I think he was one we mentioned. I think he was one we mentioned last Monday of in need of a break. I'm surprised he didn't this weekend, and I know.
Oh, Boyce's gone. So we'll carry on.
You know something.
Can say it was the right thing for. It would be the right thing not to have played this weekend.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, then going through a surprise loss for Nathan Aspinall. I didn't see this one coming. Great result for Steve Beaton. Again, a man that got the bye and maybe a little bit of justice in this game because Steve Beaton is looking to keep his tour card, looking to get to the world still. That's not guaranteed. And getting that bye, he must have been thinking, oh, great. No money on my rankings potentially, but then he's won, so he gets some, but a little bit.
Yeah, but it was a game where it was a little bit of a let-off, wasn't it? Aspinall's come out on average less than 90, 25% on the doubles. Look, I don't think anybody begrudges Steve Beaton that opportunity, but you could tell by the way he reacted on socials this weekend. It was the first time I've actually seen him tweet, and it just looked really honest. It was like, really need that money for my ranking at the end of the year, and it's definitely a concern for him at the minute. And I just hope that, look, we spent the last couple of years saying that Steve Beaton is a man who is at risk of losing his tour card at the start of every single season. Then he goes on a bit of a run. He hasn't quite produced that this year yet. We're still waiting on it. And the longer the year goes on, the more pressure that'll build. And eventually that will take its toll on a man who's been playing darts for the best part of 30 plus years.
Oh, yeah, massively. Time average for Rob Cross, played very, very well. But I'm going to do round 2 and 3 all in one here. Where is Krzysztof Ratajski right now? Because
Probably in Poland somewhere. Don't know.
He might just have stayed, I don't know. But this is not the Ratajski that we were seeing last year. Again, he's won one, lost one, but they're just in and around the 90 averages, which isn't going to affect the top end of the sport anymore. Where we go back a year, 18 months, we were seeing Ratajski adding those 100-plus averages to his game and winning big games, where right now it all just seems a little bit laboured and not quite the Ratajski that we knew.
It's that defending year, isn't it? He's had his 2 years on tour now. Nobody's scared of him. Nobody's being caught by surprise of Ratajski when he's on the ascend. And, I mean, to be quite honest, you can forgive the 90 average in this game and the 86 from Rob Cross because you're better at hitting doubles than they were to get over the line. So when you have an absolute, the last couple of legs that they do was just finish line-iters basically and can't get over the line and can't will it over the line, then the average is going to take a massive dip anyway. That would have finished mid-90s, I think. So
Boyce is in and that's having a right mare tonight, isn't it? He's got a touch of the gobs. We'll carry on.
2.5 years ago, let it go.
Let it go.
Oh, don't do that either.
Again, another man that's struggling right now. We've seen him quite vocal on social media. Ryan Searle got to the Players' Championship final in back end of last year. Played well, but this year it's a little bit stuttery at the moment for heavy metal.
Again, the expectation levels on Ryan have gone up. People expect Ryan to be at the back end of tournaments. We saw that rise with Christoph Ratajski over the floor event, put it together for a TV event or two, and he just cannot seem to get going. And look, when his barrels are so big and whatever else, there's always going to be little inconsistencies in his throw, in my opinion. We've seen it on the floor events. Some days when he goes to the final, he can average 110 for 3 games, but then he can average mid-90s and get away with a couple. So, it's not the best year for heavy metal so far. Not sure how much he's practicing, not sure how much he's been relying on Gary Anderson to do so when he was asked to do so at the start of the year, or whatever. So...
Yeah. Well, also, one of the games of the round was the all-Welsh affair. Geraint Price, Louis Williams. And with the greatest respect, this is the frustrations of Louis Williams because where has that Louis been all year? Although he's lost, that was a stunning performance from the young man and we're just not seeing enough of him. Hence why his tour card is in danger.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Louis Williams had a bit of a Rob Cross just about the world title or the big fairy tale ending at the end, didn't it? He sort of burst onto the scene at the UK Open. I knew of him from reffing in a county literally a few weeks before that. But other than that, I'd never really heard his name. He's got to deal with being in the big time very, very quickly. And he might be a player that benefits a Martin Schindler-style break. You've had your couple of years, you go away, you rebuild, and you come back again, and you know how to deal with it next time up when you're on the constant ascent again. Barney spoke about this an awful lot, about coming back to the game and just feeling so much better about himself because he wasn't defending every single week. And we probably take for granted, looking at the metrics, that the amount of money that these guys are defending, especially somebody like Louis, who we saw going to the back end of Pro Tours in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Then, moving on to the Sunday, Luke Humphreys, the number 1 seed, was outstanding to beat Dave Chisnell, 105 average, and this is becoming kind of the norm, shall we say, for Luke right now.
Yeah. And look, it's not Dave Chisnell's best performance there. 93 average, 3 out of 7 on the doubles. Still at 5 maximums. It is taking a very, very good performance to beat Dave Chisnell at the minute. Yeah. And that is one from Luke. And granted, it's 6-3. It doesn't sound that close. 12 points difference in the averages, whatever else. But it is taking something special to stop Dave Chisnell pretty much every week at the minute. And he's a player that needs to cash in on it pretty soon. Yeah,
Joe Cullen produced a fabulous last leg to beat Daryl Gurney, Boise. That was the rock star at his best. He was the better player during the game, but couldn't shake chin off. But that last leg was just sublime.
Yeah, apologies for the connection. Feeling like Dov a couple of years back. Yeah.
There's no need.
Yeah, he was the better player, but he just needed that one leg. And it was a great leg of darts from Joe Cullen on the throw. He didn't give Derny the opportunity to even really get into it. So a 107 to finish. any sort of ton plus, we always thought about it as a great way to see a Dame through, and for Joe to do it against Darryl Durney, who for me, he's looking like he's getting better and better. Still not to the levels that we've seen him go on and lift TV titles before, but his game seems to be going in the right direction for me.
Yeah, Chizzy does like the Grand Prix, Jamie, absolutely. I have spoken to Duzza recently, and there will be something coming out with him in the next couple of weeks. But bear with us on that one. Peter Wright bossed Johnny Clayton, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no. I don't think Johnny was a million miles off here. It's 98, it's 42% on the doubles, but he got broken early and just seemed to be chasing, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I think it was refreshing to see this from Peter Wright, because that's a top 8 player in the world in Johnny Clayton, playing somewhere close to his A game, not quite his exceptional TV game, but somewhere near his steady A game that you expect him to produce 60-70% of the time when you are a top 8 player in the world. And Peter Wright had absolutely no trouble with dealing with it in the back end of that match. For a player that's been away from the hockey through his health issues, it's good to see for Peter Wright fans, and it's good to see for darts fans as well.
Yeah, completely. So we're just having a little WhatsApp chat on the side here as well. Thank you for everyone that is watching. Ross Smith, what a performance to beat Damon Heta. This is vintage Ross Smith. And again, this is something that we haven't seen enough of Ross Smith this year. We know Ross Smith's A game, in my opinion, is top 16, arguably top 10 when he gets it right. The consistency is the issue, but this was it. This is the Ross Smith A game, and it makes it look effortless when it goes like this.
Yeah, we do. And we've probably seen it more on the Euro Tour than we have anywhere else. And probably his performances across Sunday, and I know we'll come on to his next round. He talked about that consistency 100% with Ross Smith. But this level of game for me, if it obviously hitting the number he has done, but it's just how sure of himself he looked on the stage. At some of them doubles just looked so clean. And for me, I agree that if he can find a B game, for me, I can't see why Ross Smith isn't a top 16. I'm not sure about a top 10 just yet, but top 16 for me, he should be in that conversation because he can perform big numbers, and his finishing is also very, very good. But like I says, it seems to be that we always see these deep runs on a Euro Tour. It's just seeing them and producing that when the bidder money and the bidder ranting points comes into play on the TV events.
Before we move on from Ross Smith, can he make the Grand Prix? Yes, I think he can.
I don't know what he's in. Is he in the next two? Is he in Jena or the last one?
There's only one more. There's only one more Euro Tour before the cut-off.
And
he's there.
Not Jena.
Belgium. Yeah, he's there.
Because he's 17th on the order of merit.
He's there.
£500 behind Roby John Rodriguez, who obviously had to withdraw last week as well. So that might, through no fault of his own, cost him a place at the Grand Prix. I do want to... The first pro I ever met, or not first pro, the first... When I went to uni, we had a varsity match, and the first time we ever did the varsity game, we just started working with a manufacturer, and Ross Smith came along to do an exhibition in year one. And honestly, the difference between Ross that night and Ross a few weeks later when I saw him at a pro tour, I think he was still close enough to be on the dev tour as well, very, very close in doing so. The maturity in Ross Smith right now is massive. It's long enough ago to say that Ross Smith had to approach me or my team the morning afterwards to ask friends of ours to remove pictures from him from the night before because he'd had too many to drink. You don't see that with Ross anymore. There's just a calmness up on stage. He gets up. He's steady in the media without being exceptional and chucking your lines left, right, and centre. he's just a solid professional dart player now, and I think that's paying off for him.
Yeah, I know, agreed. Evening, Wim. Hope you are good. And yes, I am coming out, mate. I shall be there. And then Geraint Price just absolutely obliterated the home favourite here. And we've said it again, and we'll come on to obviously how we lost. But there are genuine signs now that Gezi is very, very close to top gear again. Ominous signs as well that this isn't just Geraint Price ticking along like he does at the beginning of the year. This is business Gezi right now.
Yeah, there's not Geraint Price and Michael for me are the two who we've sort of spoke about who are going to go and achieve TV titles between now and the end of the season. It's just, I think to put it on socials, obviously there's another name that's now sort of done into the mix just on his return, but there's no question of where Geraint Price's game is. He's arguably the best player in the world at the moment, but if not, he's in the best two. So I'm not surprised to see Price doing this to Schindler, and I know he still feels he owes Schindler one. But there's no surprise to see him go on and do this, and I expect him to go and do it, if not next weekend and go all the way. He will over the next couple of months because he is that good at the moment. And hopefully what it means is his focus is solely on darts and it isn't on anything else. Yes, he missed a weekend, which for me is probably the right thing for all of them who've done the World Series. But actually his focus is on those big events. And if it's not winning a Euro Tour, it's focusing on them to win World Series, Grand Prix, Grand Slam, and them to win those big ones. So hopefully if Price's mind is on darts for the next 3 months, he's going to be a huge danger for the rest of the field because he can produce a 105, 106 constantly. He's that good.
I think he's heading into the back end or the business end of the year in the best shape for me.
Yes.
He's approaching his peak and he has managed his calendar this year more than anybody else. And at times we criticise him for late pullouts, especially last weekend from the Euro Tour. But actually in terms of heading into the TV events for the rest of the year, for your big boys, he's heading in the best shape. Marco van Gerwen's won the last 2 televised major events, granted, but we're still not quite sure where his B game is. If he produces his A game, fine, brilliant. He's got every chance of winning it, but we're still concerned about his B game. Peter Wright looked very, very good this weekend. Steady last weekend, beaten by a good performance. Far too small a data sample size to tell you where Peter Wright really is right now. But if he continues on an upwards trajectory on his way back and is playing well, then fine. Dimmy looked pretty sharp with his new equipment. He will peak for TV events. It's what he tends to do. Luke Humphries is looking great. We haven't seen a lot of Michael Smith the last couple of weeks, but he's still been possibly the most consistent performer from the year. We haven't really seen a drop-off from Michael Smith. And then Wade on his way back. D'Souza looking a lot better than he has done for the last 9 months. It is the worst time possible for Johnny Clayton to need a break. Because that man was top 4 player in the world, won 4 TV titles in a calendar year. The issue was that none of them were bloody ranked, so it didn't reflect on him properly. Bank balance is still fine, but world ranking a little bit different. And he is at risk of being done in now. Look, Danny Noppert's had a stinker of a couple of weeks, but if he clicks in one TV event, you expect him to be there or thereabouts for the rest of the year as well. Joe Cullen looked pretty good, winning with his B game. Joe Cullen, I saw a stat last week. I think it was from Darts Oracle, actually. They were comparing players that win the most often with the lowest average. And we always put James Wade in that category, fine. Joe Cullen does it more than anybody else.
Joe Cullen is right
more
in
than
there.
Anybody else.
Joe's right in there. And he says that himself. He's learned to play ugly, which is great. We're going to hurry along because John will be joining us shortly. There's some great questions in the chat room regarding Lakeside, the Masters. We will get to them. Don't panic, everyone. We'll cover that at the end, as we always do. Quarterfinals, like you say, Joe Cullen winning with his B game there, beating Luke Humphries. Prime example. Then Peter Wright, 6-2 over Ross Smith. It was a big drop-off from Ross, like we said. That's the consistency level that we need to see. Price loses in the quarterfinals, averaging a ton. The Salves have pinned the 1-2-6. Fabulous finish from Jose, but again, spoiler alert, there's a massive drop off from quarterfinal to semi-final that we're seeing still regularly. Jose, when he gets it right, is looking like the old Jose, but those drop offs are still worrying. We'll touch on that in a second. Interestingly, I think I put it on our WhatsApp. I'm pretty convinced Gazzy Price had his suitcase at the venue. He was on that train rather quick. But it was a fabulous finish from Jose, and Dimitri beats Ratajski comfortably. Semi-finals, Peter Wright averages 101. Superb from Snakey to get rid of Joe. Joe only averaging 85. He'll be disappointed. And then Dimitri beating Jose comfortably in the semi. Jose's gone from averaging a ton, 95, and only 85 in that semi-final. Boise, that's the concern still for Jose. Yes, we're seeing the 180s when he gets it right, but that drop-off will hurt.
Yeah, that was a concern because of especially the manner of how he beat Darwin Price in that last leg. Probably then he would have expected to push on. The delay of 10, 15 minutes, obviously, was it Dimitri before this semi-final? Personally, I thought we may have seen an impact in the level of Dame, but I didn't expect that huge amount of impact to him drop to 85. Preparation for these players who sort of know when they're going to be on the board and make sure they have the right prep and stuff. But to drop down to like a low 90s maybe been a bit more expected. But for him to hit 85 is more of a concern of where his form is in this back end. But generally, a good weekend for Jose, but there's still big. I was going to say question marks, but I would actually go as far as to say big question marks because this wasn't even a TV event, and those are the biggest worries for Jose at the moment.
The final, Peter Wright beats Dimitri Vandenberg. It was 8-6, Gob, but with the greatest of respects, that scoreline flatters Dimitri because Peter Wright bossed this game. Yes, Dimitri won legs and picked him off when he was given the opportunity, but Peter Wright made all the running in this final.
Yeah, and I suppose that speaks volumes for Dimitri because he's not at his best and he has still got that close. And Peter Wright's not afforded massive amount of chances when he's missed darts at double either. It's just been the resilience of Dimitri, I think, on his own throw as well in the majority. So, yeah, look, to go the distance of Peter Wright over Wright scoring in this, by the way, 18 ton pluses, 12 140s, 2 180s, 2 ton plus checkouts, including a 160 over 14 legs. Is not too shabby. That's more than 2 ton plus visits a leg from Peter Wright, and that's tidy enough to come back at that level, that consistently throughout the day as well. We keep saying him to be back at that, but he didn't really drop below 95 for the finals day for a player that hasn't played much. You expect a couple of good rounds in the Pro Tour or one a day, and then go and rest up a bit, but to play that consistently on finals day will be a big tick in the camp Peter Wright.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. There was a question back here. Trying to find it.
Just while you try and find it, Phil. One thing that Bill's mentioned in the chat room, which I absolutely loved, Peter Wright hitting bullseye for a 10-darter was great.
So here for that.
Was so great.
So here for it. He had a 12-darter as well, where he had 2 bounce outs in the leg.
Yeah, I'm all for the bull on 50. Especially, I think Dimmy was batting the 300s maybe at the time, but I am so for it. As long as the opponent's not on a check out, I'm definitely for going straight for it.
This was an interesting one for me. We were chatting about it, and almost as it was happening, unfolded. The handshake at the start was still frosty. As they went in, they shook hands, and you could see Dimitri wanted a little bit more. But Peter was giving nothing at that point. But at the end, Peter's won. They've gone to shake hands, and Dimitri's almost just launched him and given him a hug. But I think they both needed that. I think that was the icebreaker. Because then after that, they seemed to both loosen up, and they were laughing and joking with each other. Look, obviously something happened at the match play. It happens in professional sport. No issue with that at all. People are never, ever going to get on all the time in professional sport. You have your moment, do what you got to do. But I just think they needed that icebreaker moment. And Dimitri forced it a little bit, to be fair, when he just gave him a hug.
Yeah, there was definitely a look upwards from Wright to say, how am I in this position?
Yeah.
I don't want to go putting words in either player's mouth, but like you said, it's weird to expect to be best friends with a sportsman as well, because at the end of the day, they're there to take money off of you.
Completely. Yeah, 100%.
It was brilliant that the Wright family took Dimitri in through COVID, especially when couldn't get back home or whatever. They obviously were pretty close, got on really well. They spoke about an awful lot in the media. It got to a point where there was serious money on the line and career. Look, Dimitri van der Berg's got 20 years left in this game at an absolute minimum. Peter Wright is running out of chances to go and win big titles. So when he loses one, he's not going to give you a hug and send you off to school with a packed lunch. Is it?
Not completely.
Or 3 gold stars for your chart. You don't have to wash up tonight. No, bugger off. I wanted the money and I wanted the title. Like, it's professional sport. Get over it.
Oh, massively, yeah. But like, you could just see they just needed that ice break moment, because the one at the beginning was still a little bit, but at the end it was all.
I don't think there's any hate between them. I don't think there's any hate in either direction. I think it's just a case of I need to distance myself from you because I need to beat you.
Yeah, I think there's a huge amount of respect between both players, and I don't think even at the match play that was lost. It was just the timing of it and sort of how it went. I think the respect between the two, and obviously what happened, it was a sort of the news story from in the darts world during COVID, and there seems to be that respect there. It was nice to see, I guess, even though I am a huge fan of seeing a bit of needle on stage. It was nice to see every so often someone be nice.
Yeah, no, look, absolutely. So the race for the European Championships is now looking interesting, boys. Just getting it up here. We'll go with the European Tour.
Somehow, James Wade is going to survive this.
For the European Championship.
Yeah. Missing out on the last 3 and sneaking through.
Yeah, I think he is.
This one. 26th is James Wade.
Yeah, and we've only one tournament left. You would need a very, very unseeded feel about your probably quarterfinals for that then to change.
It's Belgium, the last one, isn't it? So, out of the ones down the lower end, obviously the top 16 are set. We don't need to worry about them. But the tour card holder qualifiers, Martin Schindler, Jeff Smith, Danny Baggish, Boris Kirchmar, Neil Zonneveld, Ross Smith is there.
He's above James Wade anyway. Ross Smith is a bigger concern for the Grand Prix than he is for the European Championship.
Yeah. Vincent van der Voort, Adrian Lewis, Simon Whitlock, Gary Clements, Keane Barry, Bradley Brooks, Alan Suter. Importantly for him, Andrew Gilding is there. Merv King, Steve Beaton, Kevin Dukes, Steve West, big ones here as well. Chris Dobie and Ryan Meikle, both in that bottom little section there. They are both there. Jamie Hughes, Madas Razma, and Cameron Menzies. God,
the biggest player at risk really is Callum Ridge then.
Yeah.
Kirchmar.
Ideally for
Evans,
Ridge,
Barry,
especially out of looking at the sheet you've done up with Meikle, Dobie and Gilding, for Callum Ridge surely would just want one of those 3 to sort of meet in a first round game.
Possible.
Because then he knocks one out.
Yeah.
As well. You've got Boris Kirchmar just outside. He's there as well. So you have to put a little asterisk by him as a danger one, because again, it's only a couple of wins.
And the draw could be massive because all these players in the chasing pack can either get each other, which immediately cuts your field in half that can overtake you, but it immediately puts half of them into the next round. They could all make it through the first round. They could all get beaten first round. That draw is massive for this weekend.
And even if we go back, a few years when I think it was Jamie Hughes who was absolutely nowhere near the top 32 and then went and won the last one and picked up the 10K then. Yeah, 10K then and just shot in. So we've still got we've still got a handful of players who are in that between probably 5 and sort of 8,000 on these rankings who don't have a deep run, even if it's a final, that can put themselves in that mix. And it wouldn't surprise. We've seen it before, as I said, with Yossa.
There is a ridiculous amount of tour card holders below Jelle Klassen who got there as a challenge to home nation qualifier.
Yeah.
Are we done with this one?
Yeah, I think we're done with that one. But more importantly, Peter Wright ends the drought for the Euro Tour title, which is fabulous for him. Whilst we're there, we won't put it up on stage, but we'll just talk about the race for the Grand Prix. John's due any minute now. Like for the European Championships, there is just one qualifying tournament left. And again, there's players within striking distance of Roby John and possibly Brendan Dolan. Ryan Meikle is there. Look, he needs a good run, but can do it. The two that I'm looking at for the Grand Prix race in particular that I think can catch Roby, Ross Smith is the obvious one and the danger because there's not much between him. If he wins his opening round one, he will do it. And also Vincent van der Voort is just hovering gob, shall we say, that if he ends up in a nice section of the draw, like we say, like Wim said there, we know Gerwin Price is not going to Belgium. Would I be surprised if Johnny Clayton did the same? No. So if one of these players can end up in a nice section, they could just make a late dash.
Yeah, just hope that these withdrawals are in time to fill the field as well, because the last thing we want is buys not going on and costing players the opportunities. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It will be interesting. That's for sure. But the European the Euro Tour for the weekend is all done and dusted. As Wim said there, Price already said he wouldn't be going to Belgium. Yeah, no, he did. He said he's missing that one, so he's fresh for the World Grand Prix, which starts in Leicester on the Monday. Not sure I'm a fan of that, if I'm being honest.
Makes no difference to us. It does make a difference to us because obviously we won't have a show.
We wouldn't anyway, would we? If it started on the Sunday, we still wouldn't have a show on the Monday.
Unless it started on a Tuesday, there's no chance for us. Speaking of, by the way, there will be no show next Monday.
No.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. Potentially we may do one Tuesday.
We just haven't asked Lee yet.
Yeah, that's breaking news, not just for everyone in the chat room, but for me as well.
I said potentially. So yeah. Just giving John a shout now.
Does he come with a translator?
That'd be good to get him on and good to chat stuff. So any questions for John, get them ready. The Joker is on the way.
I tell you why no one likes playing Andrew Gilding, because he's just awkward in his setup.
Yeah. Oh yeah, look, he's
not the fastest anyway, but his setup takes just as long as his 3 darts do, because of the step to the oche, step all the way across it, back across it. There aren't many players that throw from the extreme left. There are a lot that throw from the extreme right.
Yeah, because he keeps blocking the camera.
Yeah. He's not as bad as what's his name? Who's got the action?
Elargan. We don't worry about the watershed. If you're listening to the Pro Tour stream, we have Tiz dropping F-bombs at 2 in the afternoon.
As far as we're aware, there is only one under 18 that watches this show, and that's John's daughter. So if he's going to swear, it's not on us.
Yeah, and he's not just going to bring that to.
I don't think Maisie will be surprised at John's language out of nowhere.
No.
Well, I've never heard him say that before. Yeah, all right.
While we are waiting for him, though, Phill, and looking at races, it's very, very interesting to see where he's sitting currently on the World Championship race, because he's currently occupying position number 32 in the Pro Tour Order of Merit.
Yeah, he'll be one. You doing the honours, Gob? You know how this works better than me.
Oh, yeah, all right.
You us, John. You got us on in 2 places.
Oh, well, that can't be good, can it?
How we doing, buddy?
Just say hello.
Hey, Maisie.
There was no way I could get on this show without her behind me. So you just wanted to say hi. Go on, say hi to the lads.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
We're all good, Maisie. We're all good.
Right, go now and take the dog with you. So what's the crack, lads? Huh?
Yeah, welcome to the live rounds, John.
Yes.
Big fan. We've been talking about rankings and stuff like that. I know you're a keen looker because we chat away from the show and everything like that.
Yeah.
You'll be glad when these Euro tours are done and it's a level playing field and that you know what you're shooting against.
Yeah, do you know what? For the first year, I'm now only realising how important the Euro tours actually are, because the money that you win on them goes on your Pro Tour ranking. You know, so they're quite important. You'll need, out of the 13 of them, you need to at least make half, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. First year on tour, how have you found it? And is it everything that you expected?
Yeah, you know, I done it a few years back, with the lads, but a lot's changed since I was there a good 10 years ago. But yeah, I had a good start, to be fair. I didn't really have any more goals going into the year after I got the tour card. I think getting the tour card was the only goal I had. After that was a bonus, so there was very little pressure on me,
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, watching it the weekend, like, and dropping 5 places down to 32 in the World Championship race was a bit of a dent, as one would say. But if I can hold on to 32 spot going into the last 6 Pro Tours, I've played at this level before. I know what it's. I'm not 20, 21 playing this game at all. Like, I'm around a while. I know exactly what's needed to be done,
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose we'll get the elephant out of the room first of all, because it's already popped up into the chat room. So we'll do it and get it out of the way. How is that trophy sitting in Cork?
What trophy?
Well,
look, I didn't want it to go down that road, and everybody that knows me, even himself, knows I didn't want to go down that road, and there's a bit of a story behind it. It was offered back to him, but he refused to take it unless it was still covered in my house insurance. But I'm not stupid, like, I told him he can have the trophy back, come get it, or I'll drop, or whatever he wants to do. But the minute it leaves my house, that's it. My name has no more attachment to it, like, and he didn't want that. He wanted me still for it to arrive in his house under my house insurance. No, ain't happening, because if anything happens to that trophy in transit, he claims off me. So it's gone to court. It's been adjourned 3 or 4 times. It's not high priority for courts. Like, it should never even been in court. But the trophy don't belong here. That trophy needs to be played for again. Simple as. It's the longest running dart trophy in world darts. Long before there was a World Championships, they ran the World Masters. I think 2 years previous to that, 1974. I think the World Championship started in 1976. I don't know. That trophy needs someone else needs to lift that trophy. You know what I mean? They can't stay here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but look, they've led me to court. Like, so I've just got to go in and tell the judge what I'm telling you. Simple as that. You know.
On the World Masters itself, not the trophy, but the actual World Masters. How proud are you that your name is on that illustrious trophy?
Oh, listen, I see it every day. Michael Van Gerwen's name is on it. Phill Taylor's name is on it. Martin Adams, Bob Anderson, Eric Bristow 5 times. Look, it's the who's who of darts are on that trophy, and for my name to be on it, you know, you only dream of things like that, you know. Yeah, that dream came true. How, as Alan Suter said, how I won that is a mystery. You know, but look, nobody from start to finish at darts debate me. Nobody. From the very first game right down to the final, I was never behind anybody at any stage where they had darts to knock me out of that tournament. That's fair going.
We've seen something on the WDF website. It's yet to be confirmed, but there are a lot of talking points that perhaps the format of the Masters is going to change this year. Would you be disappointed to see it change, because that format has been synonymous with the Masters?
Yeah, I definitely think some tournaments should be left alone. I see changes in tournaments down through the years, but that's definitely not just because I won it. But you know, like I said, was the longest running dart tournament in world darts, and it should be left alone. And to be honest, some other guy needs to lift that trophy. Like, how proud and what an achievement for another guy to lift it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't belong in my house. You know what I mean? Like, but it doesn't need to disappear forever. Like the World Championship trophies that we'll probably never see again, because Neil Duff now has a new type trophy. Look, I'm old school dart player. You know what I mean? Like, and all these young guns coming up, they probably don't even know what the World Masters was or how big it was. You know, but it doesn't deserve to die in my house. Like, not a chance. Like, that trophy. I mean, like, you hand that trophy to the next winner and tell me the enjoyment. Like, I never got the trophy when I won it. It was the biggest disappointment of the whole thing. Took away the night that I won it, when I got a piece of crystal that was covered in Maltesers by the end of the night from Maisie's fingerprints. You know, like, come on, lads, this is darts. Like, you know what I mean? Like, have a small bit of respect for the people that have actually won it before me. And a big up to the guys that might win it after me. Like, but it doesn't belong here. You know what I mean? Like, nobody will touch it. Nobody will come near it until the court.
Really want to move it on?
Yeah. You're going to need a bigger shelf there, kid. But no, all jokes aside, like, you know, look, I don't know how long it's going to go on for. Look, it's supposed to be run again in Holland in November, is it?
December.
December. They've not contacted me. You know, the WDF not contacted me. I spoke to a few lads in Winnemaw maybe a year ago. They've not got back to me yet. There's nobody going to touch me with a barge pole until this court case is over, and then they'll all come looking for the trophy. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe then, like, but you know, if you're silently backing me, it's no good to me. I need to know who's 110% behind me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not a free run to a court. Like, we have to pay costs, and if we lose, we might have to pay other costs. I never wanted to go to court. Me, of all people, I've been playing darts over 30 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, and some of the things that were said to me, that they don't trust me with a trophy. That trophy is probably in the safest house in the world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I love the game. I'm throwing darts from the time I get up in the morning till the time I go to bed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that trophy is probably in the best. But I also want to move on. You know what I mean? I'm now a professional dart player, PDC tour card holder. Yeah, look, I'll never. It's one of my. It's the biggest achievement I've had in 30 years of darts. It's time to move on. You know what I mean? Like, I could win at in the PDC. I truly could. Like, I believe that I could win at. So I mean, like at the end of the day, that trophy will come down and be replaced by another trophy, which will have to be given back the following year. Like, But it's seriously, someone needs to have a talk with this man and stop all this court case, carry on. Like, the trophy is there. If he wants it, take it back. I suggest the next winner of the World Masters, whether it's WDF or anywhere for that matter, but this trophy cannot and should not be put into an attic. It needs to be played for.
100%.
Completely agree.
Jump in, boys, whenever you want as well.
Well, you mentioned you are now a tour card holder, first year on tour. How different is the travelling life, and how much better is it knowing that you've got quite a close-knit group that you tend to travel with or sit with? Obviously, we've seen you quite passionately supporting Josh Rock the last few weeks or throughout this year. Does that make life on tour that little bit easier? Yeah,
look, I mean, we do a lot of social media work. Not so much Josh, but myself and Suits, and like Paul, we don't do the hotel rooms, you know what I mean? Like we get an Airbnb, like the four of us, and stick up a dartboard, But yeah, when the four of us together, it's good crack, like, you know what I mean? Like there's not two going back to one room and another two going back to another room in a hotel. We can sit down. We were watching movies, cup of tea after the darts are finished. Paul is cooking a dinner. It's just like away from home, like, you know what I mean? Like, and that helps, you know what I mean? Like it does help, like you're kind of living in a home environment while you're away, like, and yeah, we get on. We get on. They had me traumatized, the two of them feckers, like, you know what I mean? Like, dumping out.
There's the F-bomb.
How long was that? Who had that in the sweepstake?
Yeah, but you know what? They have these small cap things. The bloody things are unreal, like. And the cap, the old cap guns before, they'd make a loud bang.
Yeah.
Feckers, they have them under me pillow on the toilet bowl. Jesus, wept tonight. They carry on out of the two of them, or they're unreal. Whatever about Josh, like, but Suits needs to grow up a small bit. He's 46, like.
So there you go. Just another age to put down in the bracket. 46 Suits, edging closer and closer to the seniors. 5-0.
Yeah, well, what John forgot to mention is he's 47, so he's that little bit closer to the seniors.
No seniors. I'll hold on to my tour card. I guarantee you that. I can't give.
Go for another cycle, and then when you're ready,
I can't give it up that soon. It took me years to get the fucking thing.
And John, looking then at you've already mentioned the World Championships is fast approaching, and you're sitting on that final spot currently, but still plenty to play for. We've seen this week that we've had qualifiers from the CDC, so we've got other organisations that still have qualifiers from tour cards. We have the same with the Dev Tour. Just interested to see with your thoughts on only having one route to qualify, where other players potentially have more than that one route.
Yeah, sometimes it's very discouraging watching other guys qualify for a World Championships while the tour card holders are still battling it out. It's a case of I always thought that the 128 tour card holders were priority. That no matter what happens, they're priority because they're the ones that hold the tour card. But look, there's a lot of things happening around Asia. There's a lot of things happening in North America. There's all these qualifiers. I saw here today, I think Danny Baggish and David Cameron. Yeah, good lads, But I mean, like, we used to, in Ireland, have a qualifier, the Tom Kirby, if you remember.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be a route for an Irish player. We say, like myself, that didn't have a tour card at the time, to try and make it a name for himself, or try and get to Ali Pali, where Stephen and Willie and Keane and they already were there through the rankings. but we don't have that qualifier anymore. So it's basically whoever's coming off that Pro Tour order of merit, the top 32. If there's like, I think Stephen Lennon is only about 14,000, so he's a good bit off. He's got a lot of work to do to make it. Keane and Willie recently, because Willie got a run to the final of one of the Euro Tours last weekend. So Willie was about 5 or 6 in the grey, and now he's 5 or 6 in the green. Moved me down, and Steve Beaton gets a bye. You know, it was Adrian Lewis bait me and Richie Barnett to qualify for that, and then to turn on the TV and he's not there. Someone's
certainly a follower of the DARTS Rankings website then. Just a little bit when you're naming the colour codes back to us.
Yeah, well, I tell you now, the last 2 weekends, and Belgium in another week and a half time, and then Gibraltar, I'll have that world rankings worn out on my phone for checking it to see am I still in with a shout. You know, I mean, what an almighty year it would be if I was to qualify. Like, I think I'm okay for the Players' Championship, I think, or the Players' Finals, is it?
Yeah, definitely. If you're 32 and that, then yeah, you should be.
Yeah, you're safe in that.
Yeah. So look, I guess like if Ali Pally don't work up, look, it wasn't my end goal, Ali Pally. Like I said, for the first year, I just need to find my feet, and I found them. And next year for me will be a whole different. You know, like picked up money in a lot of events. I've got good run, but you know the funny thing about getting a good run in the PDC, a good run is winning 2 games. That's a good run. You know, it's hard to win a leg, never mind say a game.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
You know, and I know Matthew Edgar touched on something there recently about snooker players and this money being injected into the tour card holders for fellas that are, like I said to you there last week, like from the last Pro Tour that I played in, I had 75 days off. Like I put all my eggs into one basket and took a chance. There's no employer in Ireland, from where I'm from, is going to give me all that time off. So I have to take it on the chin now and go back. If it doesn't work out, I go back to work. But at least I tried. But I can't not give it 110% after trying for so long to get this status now. To just throw it up in the air because I can't time off work. There's no, I don't care who you are. There is no employer going to give you all those weekends off. Like there are times there at the start of the year, I'm only back in Ireland on a Monday and I'm gone again on a Thursday. Imagine going into work and telling the boss man, I'm going there again Thursday. You're no good to him. You know, and in my line of work, I'm a plumber. So in my line of work, like if I'm in the middle of a house, that house expects to be finished at the end of the week. I can't just drop the tools and go. So the only option I had when I got a tour card was I put all my eggs into one basket and said, right, 2 years. We'll see what happens after 2 years. If I'm still there in 2 years, hopefully I'll have done enough. Get a bit of help from somewhere, sponsorship. You know, it's near impossible to get sponsorship. But at the moment, I'm okay. I'm doing all right. But like I said, it is really, you know, if people are going to Q School want to really make sure they have their figures and their head in the right place, because what they see on television is not what goes on. You know, they're tough. If you don't win games, you're in trouble.
Irish darts is in a fabulous place right now, from the tour card holders that you've spoken about there, and then the likes of Conor Heenahan playing in the Super Series now, and even the ladies, Robin Byrne, Katie Sheldon. Irish darts is in a fabulous place. Oh, yeah, it's never been in a better place, you know, and it's down to the opportunities that have been given to them. You know, Katie and Robin have been given it a right go on the women's series. The lads have been doing it. Willie's around a lifetime. You know, the man. I don't think the man has ever even seen Q School. I think he's never lost his card. I think he's one of very few fellas. You know what I mean? Like Keane is flying it. Even Stephen. You know, and I got the opportunity to go back with the lads. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it was good to see them. Brendan Dolan, Mickey Mansell. When I used to travel 10, 12 years ago with these guys. You know what I mean? Like, and they went one way and I went another way, and it took me 12 years just to catch up. You know.
but it is in a very, very good place at the moment. And there's a lot of youths, even in Cork, even around Carlow, Dublin. You know, there's a lot of good young fellas coming through there that, you know, give them another year or two and there might be more than 5 or 6 guys with tour cards from Ireland, you know.
Do they all swear as much as you do?
Sorry?
do they all swear as much as you do?
I don't swear. I didn't swear once. Feck it is not a swear word.
Picked up by Mission as well. What was that process like, changing your darts and the tinkering between it? What was that process like?
Well, it was massive. It was massive for me, to be honest. You know, a big company like Mission coming on board. I can't thank them. I can't thank them enough. You know, there's a lot of things going on in the pipeline with darts and whatnot, and there'll be a launch soon. But look, when you know when these companies are picking you up, you're doing something right. You know, and I spent most of my adult life playing this game, trying to be the best I can, and to get places and make a name for myself. And when these companies pick you up, you know you're doing something right. You know, and I hope I can reward them by doing as well as I possibly can. And like I said, I've had a decent year, but I think it's going to get better. I'm still tinkering. I know, and Paul doesn't like it when I start tinkering. Obviously, I give you an instance here. Look, I'm messing around with these things. Are they?
10 points aren't real, surely.
Oh no! Look, wait till you see these. Where do you see these?
I saw what you put on socials the other day. The length of those darts were ridiculous. Yeah, what the hell are they?
I suppose the only way you can
look at the size of that.
That's the point on my finger here.
It's not a dart, mate. It's a fucking hunting spear.
Surely, if you lean forward, you're just placing that in the board. It's that close.
Look, it's just behind me. Just. I'll take them. I'm going up to Ballymena next week to do an exhibition with Josh. I'm going to take them with me.
If we were to say to the Joker, in a year's time, what would have been a successful period in the PDC for you?
In a year's time, I need to keep my car. That is the only object I have now, and I know it's a bit early, and I still have a year and 4 months or 5 months to go. But right now, my goal is to make sure that I'm still traveling with Josh and Alan and Paul. You know what I mean? Like, I can't go backwards. I can't go backwards. No way. It'll totally. I'd be absolutely devastated if I was to lose a tour card in 2 years' time or in a year's time.
John,
but I will go back. But there's so much on now at the moment. You know, and if these rules or these new plans that people are talking about at the moment come into the PDC, like the snooker, then it might make it a bit easier. But right now, like I said to you last week, there's guys going to hand their tour cards back because it's a lot easier to make money outside of being a pro right now. You know, with the Super Series, you've the ADC. Like even in Ireland, I can't even play darts in Ireland. That was my bread and butter. You know.
Just one from me, John. In regards to, you've mentioned Josh Roth. You know, we speak about him quite a lot on the show, just because he falls into that category. He plays in both. But that aside, you see him a lot more up close and personal. How far do you believe that Josh Roth can go? And I know it's talking about a competitor and someone who's competing with you week in, week out on the tour, but how far do you think that Josh can go?
The next few years will tell a lot. You know, I see a lot of talent come and go in my years playing the game. Josh has the ability to go all the way to the top. There is no doubt in my mind about that. His attitude off the board is something I've not seen from a guy his age. He's an old man with like his head. He's doing it right. It's like he's like an old soul, It's the only way you can describe him. He's like an old man the best of times. You know, and he goes off in the evening, he goes up, he talks to Sarah, he's FaceTiming her, and he's coming down, he's watching a movie, throws darts. Like, well, I know you've all seen these 105 and 106 averages, and that ridiculous one he had against Brendan Dolan, that 1-2-2. When he's in practice, he's scary. You know what I mean? He's laughing and joking, and he's 180s after 180s after 180s. Like, and it's soul destroying to stand behind him. Like, but me and Alan, we played him twice, and we beaten him twice. You know what I mean? Like, whether that's showing some respect, like, but you know what I mean. I said to him, I said, I'm your best friend, but up on that line, I said, you don't get on with anyone till after the game. You know, he has a lot to learn. You know what I mean? Like, he's got to take disappointment as well. He's not home yet now. He said he was getting home about 8:30 tonight, so he'll probably ring me later on. But a 6-0 defeat to Chizzy and a 6-0 defeat to Gartnentes. Now, how he's going to bounce back off that now, I don't know how he's feeling till he rings me. I'll give him a buzz later on myself, even maybe tomorrow, even if he's going to be tired now, like, you know. But knowing the Josh that I know, I'd say he'll just shrug it off as a bad day at the office and move on, because what he's done, I don't know. You're the stat lads. You know, like, has there a youth player broke onto the scene and produced those averages? I don't recall it, to be honest. I don't. Like, his running average must be 97, 98.
Yeah, I can't think of one.
You see players break through and have an odd game where they go berserk. Gert Nenches is probably the prime example of that. He can rock up and throw in 10, but never seen anybody run at that average in debut year at that age. Nowhere near.
Yeah, like a lot of guys. Like, I watched the Europeans at the weekend now, and the darts that he threw against Josh Gartnentes it was unbelievable. But he didn't produce it then in the next game. And that's the difference. That's what's going to make you money. Is you got to do it. You know, there's no point in me going in baiting Peter Wright and being, oh, look at me, I bait the world champion, or I bait the world number one if I can't back it up. It means nothing. Like, it means absolutely nothing. Like, you know, you got to back these things up. I've seen Josh back them up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but look, he's a good kid. You know, all I can say is he's a good kid. There's a lot in the tank. There is a lot in the tank, like, you know what I mean? Like, and once you get used to these stages and the cameras and media work and stuff like that, like, we're going to see there's a future world champion there. I can guarantee you that.
John, absolute pleasure having you on the live lounge for the first time, mate. I know you've been threatening to do it for a while, but it's been great to have you on. It genuinely has, mate, and your support that you give us all the time is much appreciated as well.
I thought you were afraid to have me on. No, we didn't. And we didn't even press the beat button once.
No, we haven't. We haven't needed the beat button. But the support you give us is just, thank you very much as always, my friend.
But the thing is, just before you go, like, but that's it, isn't it? The support that ye get. At the end of the day, for me, it's a game of darts. Nobody died.
Yeah.
Simple as. But, like, you know, but we keep watching it. Maisie loves watching it. But when I'm away and I'm traveling back on a bus somewhere, the headphones go on, I'm on a bus, or I always watch it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because it's nice to hear other fellas' opinions too. And sometimes a place like this and 20 minutes like this gives me an opportunity to say what I'm feeling and get off my chest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And you can come on whenever you want. Always.
Right, down again next Monday night.
Always welcome on the show, my friend. Always welcome.
And now that the fair barrier of me making a show of you is gone, I can cover the women's series there now anytime you want.
Sounds like a plan, mate. John,
take care,
mate.
Cheers, John.
Cheers, John.
Take care, lads. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the Joker, John O'Shea. What an absolute legend.
What a character.
Yeah. And
what
again,
a character.
Absolute.
Some very, very interesting points about, obviously, his previous
his
winning.
darts before he spoke.
His darts, yeah. Those darts are just ridiculous, and I'm sure if he's still listening, we definitely need a clip of him using those next week. Then, did you say then, Josh, in an exhibition? We definitely need a clip of seeing those down in the board.
To be fair, I expect Steve Backley and Jan Selesny to rock up throwing them.
Huge.
Yeah, but always a pleasure. Friend of the show, John O'Shea. Right, boys, looking ahead, we have the World Series finals.
Not in live darts data yet. No.
ITV showing some live darts.
No way.
There's no changes to their schedule, is there? Because obviously other live sport has been disrupted. Appreciate it's in a different country, outside broadcast.
Not that I've heard, and I was chatting to Mace. It's as expected.
I believe, Dob, with the return of football tomorrow, there's a highlight show, which would make me feel like it will be the return of sports there, and that will then continue into the weekend on Friday.
So, World Series finals, we're going to the AFAS Arena in Amsterdam. Again, it's a great arena, to be fair. Really good place to have darts. I know you went to the Ziegler Dome, didn't you? For the
Ziegler Dome, lovely.
Yeah, the literally, anyone that's not been to Amsterdam,
300 yards away.
You've got two huge arenas and the Ajax Stadium, all within a 30-second walk.
You've got train station, AFAS, like seating area, like promenade shops and everything. Then the Ajax Arena, then the Ziggo in the corner with a hotel attached to it. Is mint.
Yeah. But it is the finale of the 2022 World Series. The seeds are already drawn in the bracket. So your seeds are Dimitri van den Berg, Gerwin Price, MVG is he 3?
Seeds. Dimmy 1, Price 2, Smith 3, MVG 4, Johnny Clayton 5, James Wade 6, Joe Collins 7, and Gary Anderson 8.
Yes, so they are your seeds. The draw has been done. We saw Barry and Josh doing it on the PDC social channels. So, the opening round, we'll do it in draw bracket order. Danny Baggish, Ryan Joyce. Again, we said this earlier. This will either be really good or very, very average.
Yeah, this falls into that category, and probably one other of the first round games, maybe two of them does as well. You would probably edge just towards how well the qualification of this weekend for Badish and the confidence from that. Probably slightly lean towards him and the drop in form for Ryan Joyce. So that's the only question mark would be just that we've seen a few disrupted plans with travel. And if that has, fingers crossed it doesn't, but Danny Badish, we know, is then flying over this week to come and play. But I would favour Badish in this one.
Well, to be fair, if you're Baggish, Gates, or Matt Campbell, you're on a plane today or tomorrow to give yourself every opportunity in case something goes wrong.
Yeah, you should be. It's just the fact if it takes, a day or two to that over if there's of any sort of issues, delays, or anything like that.
I mean, none of them are called Jeff Smith, so they should be okay.
Look, with current form, I fancy Baggish to come through this one.
He played in front of the cameras a lot more than Joyce recently, hasn't he?
Yeah.
This is all on Ryan Joyce hitting double 16 or not, isn't it? And it always is with Ryan Joyce. If he hits it, he wins. If he doesn't hit it, he doesn't win.
Yeah. This is an intriguing one for me. If Hope I Puha against Dirk Van Dijvenbode, if you'd have asked me this question a month ago, it's a foregone conclusion. But right now, maybe, just maybe, Dirk is a little bit undercooked.
He is, but he's also playing at home, where he played pretty well last time. And this is all about the start. Halpai has to be 4-0 up for me. because Dirk will get going at some point. There will just be a leg or a spark. He's done it an awful lot, and over a longer distance as well. He's probably better suited to it as well. But if Halpine's not 4-0 up, if this is a scrap, I don't see him beating Dirk.
No, but this first round, it's short. It's only to 6.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's not a foregone conclusion like I think it was a month ago. Yes, Dirk is still a big, big favourite, but he's not playing as well as what he was when he won the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
This is a stinker for both these guys, and I don't think this one will be close, if I'm being honest. Look, it's a good one that we'll see an Oceanic player get through, but Gordon Mathers against Damon Heta right now, Boise, for me, Damon Heta is playing better than Gordon Mathers.
Yeah, that's the only thing that sort of thumbs up. If you look at Damon Heta's recent games, his win percentage isn't great. He's not picking up the wins. His performance is a dud, but he's just not then over the line. So if Mathers can take him deep in the game, there might be some question marks there. But I would expect Damon Heta to come through. And I think this first round draw, for me, just opens up why you wouldn't have the invited players in one side of the field and the tour card holders in the other. The first round draw, because it is good that we are going to see an Oceanic player in the second round, but I'd like to see that split.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but yeah, I can see arguments for and arguments against.
But Heta comes through about halfway, I think. But then, back to the probably previous game, the first to 6 just gives Gordon Mathers that slightly better chance than he would have had if it was the normal first to 10 that we sometimes see on World Series.
You on board, Gob? Heta?
I think so. I'm still just waiting for him to just be that little bit more consistent in the first round. Damon Heta is a player that we've been waiting for the last year or so to just string it together and show that he's not just a top 16 talent on the floor, because he is a top 16 talent on the floor. He just needs to produce it on TV that little bit more often now. And I think, when Ratajski was first breaking through, I'm putting Heta in that category right now, because when he scores well, he's absolutely solid. His treble 19 hitting is one of the best in the game, because he was been forced to use it so often at the minute. His pace is very similar to Ratajski as well. So I'm putting them in a similar category with a breakthrough, but it just needs to happen sooner rather than later. Yes, he's won on TV before. Ratajski won was he the World Trophy or the World Masters? World Masters. Obviously, Heta won World Series, went down under a couple of years ago.
Brisbane.
But it's a bit different now, isn't it? It's a bit different when you've got that tour card, when you're mixing it in, week out, and when everybody knows who you are.
Yeah, agreed. This one's a stinker for both of these. Simon Whitlock against Danny Noppert, the horrific tie for both Boise, and right now, this is genuinely a coin toss game for me.
I just slightly edge towards Noppert, and it is a slight edge. No, you said coin toss. I'm probably like 55-45 on Nopper's favour. Just having that slight advantage, and probably that part is just due to it being in Holland as well. Other than that, it probably is a 50-50. Just that home advantage sometimes can just help. I know we've seen it can have the added pressure, but I expect Noppy to... I wouldn't say I expect him to come for it. I favour Noppy to come for it. But just...
You agreeing, Gob?
Current form, I give this to Whitlock, actually. He's just been that much more consistent. He went steady enough in the 3 World Series events down under, backed it up again with another win over Michael Van Gogh and on the Euro Tour. And Danny's lost early a few times at the minute from a player who, for the first 6 months of this year, was, well, why isn't he in this? Why isn't he in that? The fact he had to go to this qualifier, I think, was a little bit of a distraction. And obviously, like John just said, he's had 75 days off since the last Pro Tour. There's not been an awful lot of darts for everybody to get involved in, unless you're a Euro Tour player, and Danny crashed out a bit early. So I think I'm shading Whitlock at the minute, but Danny is at home and in front of a TV camera. He just seems to be solid at the minute.
I agree. I think the home crowd may just get Noppy over the line, but I agree. I'm on form. I think Whitlock is the better player right now.
I think Danny will get his prep right as well this time.
Yeah.
When I was there last time, he drove back and forward every night and then drove back for media in the morning, then went back again in the afternoon and then came back again that evening. I don't think he'll make that mistake this time. And look, he made the final last time and lost to an inspired Dimitri in front of a very, very hostile crowd. Just stand behind him with some clippers and shave his head and think it's the same bloke.
This is an intriguing game for me, and we've said this quite a lot. Matt Campbell against Vincent van der Voort. We have seen Matt Campbell look $1 million, but, and there is a but. I get he's still in the infancy of his career, and this will come. But we don't see the same Matt Campbell on TV that we see on the floor at the moment, Gob. And for me, I think Vincent's favourite for this because it's on TV. If it's on the floor, I think I'd favour Matt. But right now, I think Vincent wins this one.
I think location is the deciding factor, not the fact it's on TV or not. Matt Campbell's action is solid. I think he has a really, really high ceiling. We're just yet to see it. His B game needs improvement. His floor is still a little too low for me at the minute. Vincent is having a great year. He's had a really, really good year for Vincent, who's been off the ball a little for the last couple of years. His back's not playing up. He's playing with a smile, which is very, very unlike Vincent. He's normally snarling, cracking up Miley Cyrus or whatever. But this is Amsterdam as well. And I saw how much that meant to Vinny playing there a few months ago, and I think it'll be exactly the same here. I'm backing Vincent.
You agreeing, Boyce?
Yeah, agreeing. I'm more on the base of the form of Matt Campbell that Vincent comes through. But yeah, if Vincent does come through, it's going to be interesting to see the crowd in that one with Derwin Price and how much Vincent's pumped up for having a deep run in Holland.
This next one intrigues me. It really does. Because again, like we said about Matt Campbell, Jamie Hughes on the floor, we have seen put in some devastating averages and performances. But right now, he's in that bracket. We don't see that Jamie Hughes on TV, Boise. If he can take the floor forms of the TV, he'll be a threat. But we don't see it, and for me, Chisnell's a huge favourite in this for that reason.
It does a little bit fall into the Badish and Joyce category for me, in the sense of we've seen Chizzy come through games where he's favourite like this, and the player hitting mid-80s. And Chizzy sort of dropped down to that level and then knocked on and steamrolled the opponent. And that's sort of what's missing from Chizzy's game. I actually think if Yosser comes and turns up and shows what he does off the ball on the Pro Tour into TV, we'll actually see a better performance from Dave Chisnell. But I do think Chizzy comes through. Just that consistency with Chizzy is better than a Yosser. And then it comes back to that TV stage at different levels of performance. So it's Chizzy for me.
You agree, Gob?
Yeah, I said it earlier. Chizzy's one of the men to beat at the minute. It's taken a special performance to stop him, and he probably in the worst part of the draw, running into Gezi or Cullen as your seeds.
100%.
Any other thing, and he'd probably fancy a crack at some of the seeds, especially one or the other in every other section. But he's fallen pretty unlucky there. I think he's going to take some stopping.
This is, again, a stinker. Fallon Sherrick gets the world champion, Peter Wright. Peter Wright not seeded because, obviously, he couldn't play in Australia and New Zealand because he was having his operation. Fallon's going to have to play well here.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, you thought, actually, this might not be too bad, but after seeing the form of Peter Wright the last couple of weeks, this will be tough. And I expect Peter to win it. Look, you don't just roll in and turn over the world champion. He's world champion for a reason. And the level of performance that he produced over the last 2 weekends, I think, is incredibly solid. It's going to be tough to beat for the entire field. The crowd might help Fallon a little bit, but I just think Wright's way too experienced to fall for any of that.
I agree. Are you on making it clean sweep, Boise?
I am, yeah. Plays in Fallon's favour if the crowd do have an impact with it being the short format of them, but I think Peter Wright has too much from what he's shown us in the past 2 weeks anyway. And and generally as well how Fallon's performed on the World Series. I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I probably expected a little bit more. I think Peter Wright comes through halfway.
The one thing that I think is in Fallon's favour is if you look back at her performances in the PDC on TV over the last couple of years, when she plays one of the top players, her level does go up. When she played Timmy, the game went up. When she played Gerwin Price, she played pretty solid. And when she played Michael Van Gerwen.
And Michael Smith.
Michael Smith. Yeah.
So those four, you go in at Peter Wright. If she can produce that similar pattern, I think she's got a chance, especially first to 6. If this is first to 10, sorry, no chance. But first to 6, first round, catch Peter Wright a little bit cold. If he starts tinkering with his darts, if he goes home this week, picks up 4 different sets and goes up with a set he doesn't like to start with, and you've got him changing after 3 or 4 legs, just make sure you're ahead when that change comes.
This last game of the opening round really does intrigue me because I don't know where to pitch the line in this one. Because this will either be a great watch because they'll both play well, or it will be a tough watch like we've seen throughout. Look, I know Devon's self-confidence is like nothing I've ever seen before, but from a neutral looking in right now, he's not playing well, which gives Gates a chance.
Yeah, it does. I guess it depends if he's wearing his new trainers or not, does he? No, joking. It falls in for me. It just falls into the category, and I don't know. Same as I'm repeating myself once more, but it's Baddish and Joyce times 2. I have no idea what to expect. If I'm siding towards one, Devon just, but it is a just. I expect 10 leads at least in this. I think it turns into quite a strappy affair. And that then continues into the second round as well, with the way Wade's performing.
Yeah, where are you, Gob?
I too am camp Devon. I think just being up on. Look, Gates has done it a couple of times, but not quite to the same extent that Devon has. I don't think Gates has ever played anybody that's as much of a showman that will make as much out of his walk-on to start with as Devon will. And I just think that little bit more experience up in front of TV cameras should get Devon over the line here. His pro form, if I recall, for the last couple of weeks has not been the worst. I say last couple of weeks, not played in 75 days. But that last batch of Pro Tours, I don't think he was getting brushed aside as he was perhaps at the start of the year.
No, but they're still only mid to late 80s averages with the odd low 90s sprinkled every now and then. It's not the Devon that we saw 18 months ago when we were having those huge ton-topping averages, 180s for fun. With that Devon at the moment, since the injury, I know he plays it down and will try. No. Just looking at the stats, since that injury, Devon Peterson has not been the same player.
Yeah, but with all due respect, that was the level that Gates produced to win the US Masters. I think it was one game a little bit higher in there.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
The rest of the tournament was very much in that range.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
His normal level of game is very much in that range.
And it might suit Devon, the fact he hasn't played as much over the past few months as the injuries he's had him. It might see that we see him come back and he's up in that back into the 90s more frequently. It's just going to be interesting. We've seen him come back before and he's had different equipment and all that sort of stuff. I know we've joked about the trainers, but this is someone we haven't seen for quite a while on a TV stage. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something new or different as well with the darts.
We've spoken about most of the seeds at some point today, but we're going to touch on one here. What are we expecting from Gary Anderson? Because like John O'Shea said there, it's been 75 days without darts for him. If I was a betting man, Gary Anderson's darts are probably still in the case from that last Pro Tour when he threw him in the car and then drove to Scotland on holiday with Rachel and the family.
There's lots of rivers in Amsterdam. Not a lot. And to be honest, I'm expecting it to be against Dirk van Dijvenbode, and I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I feel like his recent head-to-head record against Dirk is gash.
I think you're right.
I'd love to. I need to pull it up and have a look. I don't have the one website that would tell me. But I'm pretty sure their recent head-to-head record is absolutely garbage in Gary's favour. I know you've got the website.
Not on here, I haven't. But yeah, look, I just don't know where Gary is. But part of me actually expects him to have some new equipment.
She's great. Last 5 years, they've played each other 4 times. Dirk leads 3-1.
Yeah. Part of me thinks that Gary will rock up with some new equipment.
What, brand new?
Wouldn't surprise me, because we've seen some unicorn promos, and that it's about time that they have a launch, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's got a new set to try.
Potentially. But he did look really, really good with the 2-ring World Championship darts. Just went back to the silver ones.
Yeah, oh, completely.
Great darts. And he looked really good the last couple of times out that we've seen him throw with them. Or there was certainly an increase in his B game or whatever. I just think if he plays with them, he does bits. 1-2 world titles with them. I still think they're the darts for him. He prattled around with them a little bit when he changed to glasses because of how far he brings the dart back to his eye. And I genuinely think that he might have been better off never wearing glasses. Don't see the dartboard because he was still much better at hitting it. But yeah, I'm not expecting an awful lot from Gary Anderson, especially if it is against Dirk.
Chat room, get involved. Same for you boys. I would like your finalists and a winner of the World Series of Darts finals from everyone in the chat room as well. And for you two gentlemen, plot your...
We have a result on the poll. Of that, 30% say Peter Wright will win the World Series. 26% say other, 24% Price, and just 18% Michael Van Gerwen. It still staggers me that Van Gerwen doesn't just coast polls, because when we first started following this to the level, he just coasted polls. It was like Van Gerwen versus the field constantly.
So, have you got yours, boys, yet?
You want semi-finalists?
No, just finalists. We do semi-finalists if you want.
That's fine.
I don't know how, I don't know why.
Oh, God.
And this is just on one of these players. There's the other one I've spoken about being that good at the minute. But for me, Derwin Price will beat Johnny Clayton in the final. I don't know how I have Johnny Clayton there. I don't know how, but I can just see it being an all Welsh final, and that Price lifts it with Johnny beating Dimmy in the semi and Price beating Wright. The draw Johnny's got is incredible. If he gets through that, if he beats Nobby or Whitlock, then MVG, then Dimmy. But there we go. I'm sticking with it.
What are you saying, Gob?
My one concern is that this player loses in the semi-final to Dimitri. But if he doesn't, I think Simon Whitlock might make the final.
Interesting.
Van Gerwen in the quarters.
I'll see you in the second roundup.
The concern is that he'll play well for the weekend and then he will drop off in that second game of the same day or whatever it is on the semi-finals. That's my issue, is can he back it up? The winner, I agree with the poll. I think Peter Wright. I think the tough game to start with is Michael Smith. I don't want to be too dismissive of Fallon, but the tough game is Michael Smith in that one. If he can knock Smith out early, I don't see him over 19 legs being pushed too much by Wadey, Gates, or Peterson. Even if Wadey's starting on, he looks like he's on his way back up, but he's still not pre-Germany hospital stay Premier League Wadey. Cullen or Price most likely in the semis. I think if he's up and running, he's just going to be that difficult to stop after we showed at the weekend, and I think he'll win the final.
I am going for, I think MVG comes through the top half just because I don't fancy any of the others. If I'm being honest, I think Johnny's knackered. Gary, Dirk, inconsistent. By the time Michael would play Dimitri, it'd be the semi-final. Not convinced. So I think Michael comes through the top, where he will play Gerwin Price in the final. But I'm going heartache for the Dutch fans. I'm going Gerwin Price to win the 2022 World Series of Darts finals.
If Price is playing a Dutchman in the final, no chance. I won't even feel sorry for him at that point, because when I was in Amsterdam a few weeks ago, that crowd for the final match towards Dimitri was a disgrace.
I'm going Gezi to beat Michael in the final. I'm going for those two to clash. What you saying, chat room? Well, right. Whilst we tee up question time, boys, have we missed anything in a week of darts?
Probably.
Graham Usher won week 7 of the Super Series. Played some absolutely super stuff, I have to say. And what a lovely bloke. Absolute top guy.
Great to see Lisa Ashton playing well again as well, by the way. I thought we started to see more of her A game this week, which has been missing for a while, especially after that shock to the system of not winning a single women's series event last time out. Obviously, she had issues travelling.
Yeah.
Day one, so missed the first event. Bo was imperious, but they didn't even meet. Superb to see Lisa back up and firing. We also have 2 qualifiers from
The CDC.
the CDC ranking. Danny Baggish will return to Ali Pali, and David Cameron will make his debut, who cannot stay away from a TV screen at the minute. We saw him at the Seniors Masters. He's the reigning champion of that. We saw him in the World Series events earlier in the year. He's now after Ali Pali. He's already got an invite back to the Seniors World Championship next year. Probably somewhere on the ranking list for Lakeside as well. He's tend to qualify for that a few times in the last couple of years, so expect to see more of him over the next couple of years.
I'm glad that the CDC have closed the loophole for next year. Nothing against Danny Baggish, nothing against any player that does it, but I just don't like the tour card holder going down that route. So I'll be pleased when it's shut off next year. And also, I believe Nordic and Baltic are doing the same next year.
Good.
Very good.
It's a few days before a couple of events. I just want to get it up. It's doing the rounds on socials at this absolute minute, by the way, and I've just spoken to one of the players involved as well. Somebody tweeted about 40 minutes ago now. So given the choice between entering the WDF British Open or a PDC Challenge Tour event, 31 of the top 32 in the Challenge Tour rankings elected to enter the Challenge Tour event.
Wow.
Any surprise with that?
just the fact they're only chasing 2 spots, aren't they? Whereas there's ranking points filtered all the way down for stateside and beyond from the British Open.
What are the ranking points towards in the WDF at the moment?
I was about to say this.
As we progressed,
I was about to say,
one more week from where we was last week, and we've had still no announcements.
So I was going to say this as well after you said that, God, because it ties in with some of the questions we're on earlier. Does that have an impact? Because no one in the WDF circuit right now knows what they're playing for. What's the point in entering the British Open when you don't know what it's for?
Yeah. And I've spoken to the one, and they're just putting their eggs in every basket. They're not having the best of run in the PDC right now, but they are in WDF. They made it last year. They played ADC. They played Super Series, I believe, and played seniors. So it's here, there, and everywhere. It's about the best opportunities for him right now.
Scottish?
Yeah. He already told you which way round he was going anyway. He just told me that. He's probably watching as well. But yeah. So from his point of view, it makes sense. It's just interesting that how big that split is and how badly they are all chasing those 2 spots at Ali Pali and that tour card, and how valuable that still is, given the last couple of weeks you've been saying how there's never been a better time to not have a tour card.
Well, one thing it probably goes back to is what John mentioned around the money and how important it is. He's said that some players would have seen the impact of not playing PDC for 75 days. Now we're talking about the rest of the field away from them 1 to 8, and they've got the WDF, which from a calendar perspective, they've got 2 things in there that are to play for of a big value of money. That yes, the majority of these players in these events still work, but then it's just back to there's just that no communication of when these events are going to happen, what you need to qualify, which is probably the biggest one, is they don't even know. Yes, you can go this to that event and get ranking points, but actually, how many players through the rankings are actually going to qualify, and it's not through winning platinum or gold events. Yeah. So it's just a complete lack of communication is where I know a couple of players who I've spoke to who have either tried to contact or are going to be contacting senior people at the WDF to try and find out more information, and the ones who have got very, very little back.
It's radio silence. The ones that I've spoken to that have emailed in the last month, it's been radio silence to the point where they haven't even had an acknowledgement of the email.
Yeah. Which is a little bit.
Well, I was told this time last week that an announcement on the Masters was coming very soon, and expected last week, and obviously we still yet to hear anything. So.
Yeah, but this announcement is like the refurb at my local Riley's that was promised the year before I moved here for uni, was actually meant to start today, and they've pushed it back 2 weeks because they don't have the materials. I've been here 10 years now.
It's just a mess.
Yeah.
And it's just a lack of communication. Yeah. If there is a problem, just let the players know. They've got a right to know what they're playing for, when they're playing for it, and where they're playing for it.
I think, given the previous reputation and management of the BDO, I can understand why there is a hesitation to put out anything negative and avoid any negative press whatsoever by radio silence and taking that route. Because if you do make a decision or you say something that's wrong and have to go back and correct it, you only make yourself look less professional, but at the same time, things need to be happening quicker behind the scenes to make sure you're ready for TV events that are 2.5 months away.
But the problem with that is now the players are jumping on that wagon, criticising, and I think I saw a few over the weekend tagging the WDF in tweets, just saying this is just the BDO reincarnated.
Yeah. But they've had their leeway now. They've had their 18-month grace period. Get off the ground. You're new people to this. We haven't seen a lot different, and that's an issue. I don't want to keep bashing them, though, because we've had this conversation a couple of times the last couple of weeks. There is a few more week in darts points to discuss. I did have two. I can only remember one now. We'll come back to that afterwards. Tickets for the Seniors World Match Play went on sale today up in York. They'll be in the Barbican next September. A few more announcements about the rest of the calendar to come in the coming weeks. Just waiting on a few more things to fall into place. And I guess the other thing is we were meant to have Steve Brown on the show tonight. I'll get Phill, you'll probably try and rearrange it.
We're going to do it next week so we can have proper time to.
Yeah, we've got a show next week.
Tuesday, potentially.
Sweet. Hopefully, that might give him a bit more time to have the full ADC calendar ready to have a conversation with us about as well, because he said it was very, very near completion. I don't think he was going to give us that information tonight, but if it is ready to go, then that probably gives us that little bit more time as well. So that spreads that one out a little bit. Don't think we've missed anything else now.
This one on screen, the snooker announcement.
I haven't read into this enough. I saw a really, really good conversation thread on social media between Jason Francis and Mark Allen, a current player and a manager of one of the most high-profile snooker players the game's ever seen. And that was really interesting about the ins and outs of it and how they thought perhaps it could have been different and how that should be a minimum earning for players coming onto the tour regardless, and they don't lose prize money off the top of that and pay it back, etc. I think the fact that snooker are looking at that in that way is a positive move for darts, because what tends to happen is snooker is the big brother. It's got more financial backing, it's got that little bit more history in the game, and it's got that little bit more of a worldwide appeal with mass investment from China and other emerging markets, right? It's just got that little bit more coverage right now, that little bit more prize money, etc. So they will go first, and that will eventually filter down. And ultimately, Matchroom are at the head of both. And if it works with one, their systems are pretty much identical in tour card holders and top-ups and all of that, and qualifiers and whatever. This will hit darts soon. It's inevitable. It's been in the conversation long enough. They raised first round winners prize money this year on the Pro Tour. I'm not quite sure that's had the effect that it needed to. Granted, you should be able to win 1 in 3 games to win that first round prize money or whatever, but I still think there's an added level of security that's needed that pretty much every other sport in the world has now.
It's not just that. If you're new to the tour, but say you get a block of 4, you could draw Michael Van Gerwen, Price, Peter Wright, and Michael Smith 4 in a row, because of the way the seeding works.
Yeah.
Now, if you're new and you're green to the tour, it's your first time you've got a tour card, that's daunting for anyone's.
Yeah.
So, look, I think the fact that snooker are doing something and looking at it, darts will inevitably follow suit because they're based in the same office at Maskell's.
Yeah.
So,
if you want your 128 tour card holders to be the best 128 dart players in the world, you need to make sure that as many of them have the opportunity to be a full-time professional.
Yeah,
Simple.
because
the top level prize money isn't needed. We don't need. Look, it's brilliant that we're aiming for £1 million for the World Championship or whatever else, but do we really need to be paying 200 grand for the Premier League for a non-ranked event? Look, don't get me wrong, it brings in a lot of money, but do we really need to be paying that? Is 10 grand off that prize money going to make a massive difference to the player that wins it? Probably not. Is 10 grand off that prize money filtered down as a first round loss to the Pro Tour going to make a big difference to those 64 players? Probably.
No, I agree. The same as on the Pro Tour, raising it from 10 to 12 grand. In the grand scheme of a ranking, 2 grand doesn't make any difference whatsoever.
Not in the top 32, no.
No.
That's only if somebody goes and does a Joe Mernon or...
Yeah, but if you're up there, then 2 grand doesn't make any difference.
That 2 grand at every Pro Tour would have been better suited to the bottom end and bringing that further up.
Yeah, I agree.
I get there needs to be incentive in sport. You can't just give out free money for the fact that you made a a good run over 4 days or 3 days from a Q school, because I think that's what they're trying to protect against a little bit, in that you rock up, you collect 20 grand for the year, and then you don't play. Or you don't put the effort in, and you rock up, you get beat every week, collect your cash, and go, actually, this is the easiest 20 grand I've ever made. But at the same time, there does just need to be that little bit more security.
No, I agree. So we are opening up for 5 minutes worth of questions. We started a bit late, so we'll do some questions as always. Tonight's flown by, absolute flown by. It's been superb.
Just having a flick through. See if any. Here's one from Jamie. Who's your pick to be the next first time number one in the world?
Michael Smith.
I was about to say, I don't want to be obvious, but Michael Smith.
To be where he is in the rankings consistently for the last couple of years without a TV title is ridiculous, which means if he does go and win one of the big ones, the jump and the impact on his rankings is massive. Look, don't get me wrong, he was defending runners-up money at Ali Pali and the match play, which is a significant amount over the last couple of years, but all it takes is him to finally go mad, win that Worlds that he's promised for so long, and then the next couple of months ago, bang, 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 and suddenly he's £300,000 ahead of everybody else in the field.
Yeah, well, you think he's on 618 grand and he hasn't won a TV title.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Michael Smith for me.
But he probably needs more than one to then go and break into that, even if he's the world. I see Luke Humphries getting close.
The problem is, it's all on the world. You look at the current world ranking. If you take 500 bags off of Price and Wright,
the sat
it's all of that worlds now. You can't be world number one unless you win the worlds.
Yeah.
But I probably think Luke Humphries wins the world before Michael Smith.
It's a big shout.
I really do.
All I will say is, look, Luke is a fantastic player. However, in the next couple of weeks, his life is about to change drastically.
Yeah, I get that, but the motivation for that as well.
The motivation is there, but
and send it a different way as well.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of pressure that then goes with that.
Yeah, there is.
And he'll get to the quarterfinals of every event and then start talking about the Premier League.
He always seems to have a great run at the world. He falls into the.
To be fair, we're going on this one because I forgot to mention it earlier. Well brought up, Rose.
Yeah.
First of all, I know he listens to the show. I'm not sure if he's listening or travelling today, but Charlie Corstefine was effing brilliant at the weekend on the Euro Tour, and in fact he got the final. Outstanding. Will he become a main stage PDC ref? 130 million%.
Yeah.
I fully expect to see him on tour next year all the time.
I expect to see him at the Worlds this year.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
I expect to see him in that rotation. I think the fact that, without being disrespectful to Hugh as well, the PDC's top three weren't there this weekend. Their most senior referees, in George, Russ and Kirk, all weren't there this weekend. And the standard officiating was bang on. It pretty much always is as well. Let's be honest. There's a couple of mistakes that have crept into a couple of referees' games. Russ, Paul a little bit before he moved away from the PDC, but he still... Look, and then he rocks up at seniors and does the entire day on his own, mistakeless, effortless, perfect. So sometimes it's just situation, or you have a bad day, or a lacking concentration just once or twice or whatever. But I think Charlie's voice is perfect for it. There's no messing around, and it just doesn't make a mistake. There's no messing around. He's not in anybody's way. He's not jumping around. It's a bit like football. The best referees you don't notice unless he's belting out 180, and I think he's bang on for it.
Yeah. The same. Asking about Henry. Yeah, Henry had Harry. He's put Henry underneath. Henry was superb on the Super Series presenting today. Did a great job.
Yeah, I want a jacket that fits like that.
Have you boys listened to this yet?
Not all of it. I've seen a couple of clips. He speaks about the thing is, the Happy Hour podcast used to be all on YouTube, and then they signed a Spotify exclusive deal. So now they just chuck 3 clips to YouTube, and to listen to it in full, you have to listen to it as a podcast. And I don't have time for that.
I've only listened to a couple of bits. Economical.
Look, Russ is a storyteller, isn't
he? Economical.
Yeah. He's been there. He's done it. He's got a great voice. He's got a fantastic range of stories, and the way that he tells them as well. He's for me, he's the darting equivalent of Harry Redknapp.
Yeah.
He's got a story about anybody and everybody.
Yeah, his stories were brilliant. The bit about Michael, where he was economical with what he said, and look, Michael's come out and said this openly, so I'm going to say it anyway. The way Russ went about on the last leg, Michael got the ump, and I told him don't blame him, don't blame me for losing. The bit that Russ left out, Michael didn't have the hump in the last leg. It was the 2 legs before, when he had match darts, and Michael was halfway through his action at match darts when Russ turned around and said it. It wasn't the last leg that Michael had the hump with at that point. It was the 2 legs before, when he was halfway through his action on a match dart. He come up and said that in the media afterwards, so it's not a secret. That was the one that he had the hump with. Don't need that. To be fair, we've spoken about this, and again, this is Eddie's influence, because the PDC content has changed for the better as well, by the way. Mace on the PDC podcast was brilliant.
Yeah.
And in previous years, that story wouldn't have been told.
100%.
100% that story would not have been told. But it was superb. Yeah, Mace was superb on the PDC pod.
Yeah. Agree.
Lee, it would be nice, but won't happen. There will never be a tour card on offer for the Super Series. It'd be great, but no, won't happen.
Well, if it 10 years' time becomes an all-challenge tour thing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
More chance at the minute. More chance at the minute of it being a World Championship spot. Does the end them out down there? So.
Right, folks, we are going to wrap it up. We've gone deep into Fergie time. It's been an absolute bouncer of a show. Thoroughly enjoyed it tonight. Remember, the Super Series does return tomorrow morning. Murph is back along with Paul Nicholson and Henry tomorrow. You will hear me and Comms on Thursday morning. Well, every now and then. And then I'm in Amsterdam on Friday. We will have everything covered here as always. So check out the website. Thank you very, very much. If you haven't yet, make sure you drop us a follow and subscribe. The last 2 hours have been absolutely superb. It has been our pleasure. to share it all with you. This has been the Online Darts Live Lounge. Remember, no show Monday next week. Keep an eye out on our socials. Potentially, we're going to have a chat afterwards. Potentially, there'll be one Tuesday, but because of Her Majesty's funeral, no live lounge next Monday. But we will see you all very, very soon. I've been Phill Bars, Lee Boyce, Jack Garwood. Pleasure as always.
This is just the beginning.